Hillary Clinton is in Beijing today, where she will, of course, be discussing North Korea. She talked about the possibility of a succession in North Korea very openly on her way to Seoul, and then on her way to Beijing, defended it, saying that, in fact, it would be silly not to talk about what's going on in the Hermit Kingdom. The ailing leader, Kim Jong-il, turned 67 this week, and there is a growing concern, Clinton said, that there could be a struggle for succession. Joining us now, Victor Cha, who negotiated with North Korea and the six-party talks for the Bush administration for 2 years and was in Pyongyang, I know, certainly 2 years ago when I was there. Nice to see you, Victor. Thanks for joining us. Do you think the Secretary of State was too open in discussing what's going on in North Korea? Could it in any way upset, for instance, Chinese leaders whom she's meeting today?
I don't think that what she did was improper. I think the situation is pretty obvious now that the North Korean leader is in ill health, and that they are clearly trying to make transitions on the inside to prepare for his eventual departure. So the fact that the Secretary raised this on the airplane in a discussion with reporters, I think, is simply reflecting the realities on the ground. So I think it's compelled more by the situation than it's sort of a proactive policy statement. Having said that, I think that she will clearly go to China and want to have a quiet discussion about how all the parties in the region think about potential discontinuities in the North. I think that's a very smart and prudent thing to do. Frankly, if the Bush administration had done something like that, it would probably have been seen as an attempt to change the regime. But the Obama administration can afford to make statements of this nature and follow through on planning without it being seen as necessarily provocative.
How do you read the reports that the young son, the youngest of three sons of Kim Jong-il, would succeed him, and the firing of the defense minister and the threats to fire another long-range missile? All of these indications, what do you think is going on there?
Well, there's clearly a lot going on internally. We don't see it all, as Richard said earlier. I think it's very difficult to understand what's going on within the North. But I think when you see things like a new defense minister, talk of the youngest son as being the potential successor, you know, these are the sorts of internal changes we haven't seen in the North in quite some time. The fact that they're ratcheting up the threat of firing off a missile is also interesting because, you know, when you have dictatorships like this and it looks like the dictator is losing power or getting a little bit weak, that is often reflected in aggressive external behavior. You usually don't get more conciliatory policy when leaders such as Kim Jong-il look like they're eventually departing from the scene. So clearly all of this is quite significant, and I think we will see the North Koreans hold their Supreme People's Assembly in March and April, and I think we will probably see some other announcements coming out of that.
One of the things that she also said, that Hillary Clinton said when she was in South Korea, was that the North should not think that they can drive a wedge between the U.S. and South Korea. She was really leaning overboard to try to reassure the South, if you will, that the Obama administration is not going to be so eager for a deal that they're going to cut a deal and cut out the South Koreans. But this was also what she said in offering some carrots to North Korea. Let's watch.
If North Korea is genuinely prepared to completely and verifiably eliminate their nuclear weapons program, the Obama administration will be willing to normalize bilateral relations, replace the peninsula's long-standing armistice agreement with a permanent peace treaty.
Worst-case situation, Victor, what do you think we really have to worry about in North Korea as the succession goes through?
Well, I think we have to worry about everything coming apart. First, you know, in the short term, if they do test this long-range missile, and if it is indeed the Taepodong-2 missile, the long-range ballistic missile that has the potential of hitting the United States, that would be very unfortunate because I think it would trigger UN Security Council sanctions. There are 2 UN Security Council resolutions on North Korea from 2006, and it would trigger sanctions, which would make it quite difficult to get back to the talks. In the longer term, I think if there is if Kim Jong-il leaves power and you have this young and inexperienced son who tries to take over, even with the backing of some officials, there will probably be others who are not particularly happy with that situation. So you could have some sort of breakdown in the north, and then all sorts of concerns among all the parties in the region about how you handle the future of the Korean Peninsula.
Victor Cha, thank you so much. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.